Hi everyone. So it's 4 o'clock here in Norway, and I see that we have lots of participants from across Europe. So this is really fun. Super excited you all got to join today's presentation. So today we're discussing we're discussing esports in college. And today we have with us two representatives from the University of Akron. We have with us Nate and we have Jennifer, who's both going to present about their topics. So esports, what a great topic to do a webinar on. First, not a lot of people know too much about this, and it's a growing sport both here in Europe and also in the United States. And it's definitely increasing its presence on high schools and university levels. So we're very excited about today's presentation. So to start us off, I just want to go through the short agenda. We're gonna not be taking too much of your time. We know everybody's spending way too much time on their computers at the moment anyways. So we would like to do this short and sweet and then make sure you know where you guys can reach out to if you have any more questions. So first, what is Education USA? We'll dive right into esports in the US, where Nate's going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the US, how are different universities organized, what is the trends, etc. And then he will also talks about how University of Akron is using esports as a tool to both engage students and also how they're promoting esports. And then Jennifer, she works in admissions, so she's obviously going to talk about admissions for colleges, and then also on how you can apply to University of Akron if that's interesting to you. We'll end with a question and answer, but feel free to go to the bottom of your screen, hover over a little bit, and you'll see a Q&A option. So you can always go in there and pose a question whenever, and we'll see if we can address it either during the presentation or at the end. So feel free to do that. So my name is Mari, and I'm the Education USA advisor here in Norway. There's two of us. It's me and another person named Anna. She is not here right now, but at least there's two advisors here in Norway. But there are advisors across the country and across the world. So there's 178 countries where you can find these centers, and I'm so happy to see that so many of our European students joined us who usually would get help from their country advising centers. So my job, both for Education USA and the US Embassy here in Oslo, is to promote the US education opportunities. We do this through hosting webinars, we do information sessions, we have our own websites often, and we do events. But due to the coronavirus, our events are not as easy to complete at the moment or to host. So our representatives from University of Akron should actually have been in Norway this week to promote the university at a big esport competition. It's called The Gathering, but since we're not present here, we're doing a webinar instead. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions. There will be an Education USA advising office in the country you're living in, and I'll show you a link on where you can find that. So here in Norway, we actually have our own website called education.usa.no. But if you're in another country and you have any questions, go to educationusa.state.gov, and you can click on the Find an Advising Center, and it will pop up the one that's the closest one to you. They will most likely have their own website, their own social media, and there will be an email opportunity so you can email the advisors directly. So if you're in another country, say for example Germany, you shouldn't actually contact me afterwards, but feel free to do so, and I can put you in contact with the correct advisor, but you should contact them directly. I just want to mention really, really fast why I think you should study United States. And this is something I come across for pretty much in any presentation I do. First of all, the United States have world-class education. You can get some of the best education, some of the best opportunities, and some of the best experiences if you decide to attend college in the United States. The universities are very highly ranked. You can find universities that offer pretty much anything you want to study. And what I think is very perfect for this conversation is how you can combine your hobbies and talent with an education. You also have the flexibility of what you want to study. So at least here in Norway, when you apply to university, you apply to a program, and you can't switch that program that easy. If you don't like it, you actually have to drop out and apply to the university and the program itself once more. While in the United States, you often get admitted to the university itself, and then within there, you can actually change. And what I really enjoyed when I was a college student in the United States was that I got to combine my interests. So I wanted to study political science, but I realized it was very much about policy in the US, and I wanted to learn a bit more about how it's international. I am, after all, Norwegian, and I wanted to know how does that fit into the entire picture. So by combining political science, I got to double major and I did an international studies in addition. So you can do two majors. You can do one for political science, for example, like I did, and one in international relations. I also had a really close friend. He did music and biology. What a great combination. You get to do both with two interests. You also get to experience something different. So if you ask anybody who's ever studied in the United States, they will often say, "Oh, I want to go to the United States because it's so different than what it is here. I want to have a bigger package of something, a bigger experience, something that I look forward to forever." So this May, 2020, it's actually my 10-year anniversary from when I graduated college in the United States. It really feels like it was only like 2 years ago because it's so fresh in my mind and it was such a big difference and such a big opportunity for me that that's why I work on this every day today. I help students to go to the United States because I really enjoy that experience. What I really think is cool and very apt for this conversation is also the support you get from your advisors and the professors and also coaches. So when you go to college in the United States, you might be far away from your family and your friends, but the support system is definitely in place. So there's always a professor, always someone at school, always an advisor, someone who will listen to you and help you go forward and help you maybe choose the next school, the next education, maybe help you find the next type of job. So there's always someone to help you. And that's another good reason why I think you should study in the United States. And then since this fall, me and my colleagues at the US Embassy, we've actually had this focus on why gaming is very important. We've been trying to look at how we can engage youth and how we can engage companies and both the government of Norway and the government of the United States, and also how we can promote education in the US. And one of the things we've brought up is why gaming is so important to add on your resume in your education. So these 8 topics, or the list of 8 things why you should add those to your resume, is not something I made up. It's from a survey for companies, and it basically talks about all the skills that you will gain from playing computer games and why those are important to add to your future resume and when you apply to colleges and employers in the future. So just bear in mind that we're not the only ones talking about gaming and why it's important, but you also need to think about how you're going to use this for your future job. So with that in mind, I just want to let you know that feel free to check out our website if you have any more questions. There's a step-by-step guide on how you can find schools, how to apply, how to do all the practical steps you need to do in order to go abroad, especially from Norway. And then also we can tell you about who you can contact if you have any questions. But I just want to finish with that and then hand things over to Nate, who's going to talk much more about the interesting things here and why I think people want to join today's session. So I'm going to stop my screen and Nate, feel free to take over.
All right. Thank you, Mari. I appreciate it. Let me go ahead and get this PowerPoint up and running here. Everyone, my name is Nate Meeker. I am the Director of Esports at the University of Akron. Today we're going to talk about a couple different things. We're going to talk about esports in general at American universities, and then I'll go into a little bit more detail on what Akron's program looks like. So for any of you that are curious out there, yes, there are many American universities currently participating in esports. Some of them have bought in really large and are creating gigantic programs to engage 10, 20, 30% of the student population. And others are more focused on the varsity side, the competitive side, where they are engaging 2, 3, up to 5 or 7 different varsity teams for their students. So currently there are many schools that are offering scholarships for college students to play computer games or console games, depends on the college, against other colleges across the US and slowly across the world too, as other countries start to add these programs. In the US, currently we've got over 120 different schools that offer esports scholarships to students in a variety of different games. We'll talk about the games here in a few minutes, but those scholarships, they really can range all over the place depending on the school, the college itself, the players, and the game. Some of those scholarships can be very small in nature. It might be a few $100s a year, or in some cases, certain colleges are offering complete full academic tuition rides. So everything is paid for certain top players in a few different games. There are definitely opportunities out there, though, for many different students to earn a scholarship based on their gameplay at US universities. So those games that are being played that I mentioned, currently there's five, six, or seven that are more popular than others, but that doesn't mean that there are not scholarships in other games as well. So those 5 to 7 that you'll see the majority of the scholarships for are Counter-Strike, League of Legends, Rocket League, Overwatch, Rainbow Six Siege, Fortnite, and Hearthstone. With currently the biggest 3 or 4 being League of Legends, Overwatch, Hearthstone, and Rocket League. And then following that up, Counter-Strike, Rainbow Six Siege, Fortnite is just now coming onto the scene as well. There are also colleges that are offering scholarships in a variety of games that are not mentioned in those 5 to 7, but typically it's not most of that 120 college range that I listed. Those games where you may be able to also earn some scholarship dollars are Dota 2, FIFA, NBA 2K, Madden, Smash Bros, Street Fighters, or some of the other fighting games as well. With that said, though, that list is not exhaustive. There are definitely schools that are offering scholarships in other games, depending on which games that they are competing in. So, what are these varsity players doing at different schools? Well, they're doing quite a lot. They act just like a different varsity sport. So, if they had played football or soccer or baseball or basketball for the school, most of these varsity programs function in very similar ways. So, those students who are part of the program, they'll have practice 2 to 3 times a week. They're going to have a VOD review session with their teammates. They're going to play in whichever leagues the school has them registered to play in. There are college leagues in the US for many of these different games in which they participate. They'll usually have weekly workout sessions to keep their fitness up. And then we also do study sessions within the program as well, because of course we are a grades first program. So these students do have a pretty full schedule alongside going to school. Some of them are also working, but we do a lot with these different games. So these students here are treated very similarly to what a varsity athlete in a traditional sport might look like. Here's a look at what an event looks like at the collegiate level as well. So it looks very similar to what a pro event looks like. So if you've ever been to a Counter-Strike event or a League of Legends event, they look pretty similar here at the collegiate level. It's just a little bit smaller. So instead of having 20, 30, 40,000 in attendance, we've got 5 to 10,000 in attendance. This is actually a photo of the University of Akron playing Rocket League. We're on the right side up on the stage there, live in front of an audience last fall down in Texas. This was pretty neat. So here at the University of Akron, we're doing things a little bit differently than what some of the other colleges are doing. So instead of just having a varsity program for students at the highest level, we also have programs at the club level and then the recreational level for students that are interested in gaming. All in total at the university, we've got about 2,500 students who participate in one way or another within our gaming and esports programs. So we do have that varsity component where we offer scholarships for students to compete against other colleges in actually all 7 of those games that I mentioned: League of Legends, Rocket League, Overwatch, Hearthstone, Counter-Strike, Fortnite, and Rainbow Six Siege. In addition to that, we also have 16 different student-led gaming clubs on campus, and they function for all different levels of gaming. The casual gamer or the really serious gamer who's looking to get some more team experience and maybe move up to that varsity level at some point in the future. And then we also have free play opportunities as well. So if you're looking to come in and do some gaming after class on the weekends, we have 3 different basically gaming cafes, LAN cafes on campus that students are able to come in and utilize for free. On campus, we have 100 high-end PCs, 30 different console stations, a viewing lounge, and a small varsity arena that we can utilize for these different activities. Oh, we also have a broadcasting studio as well that we use for streaming gameplay. So for us here at the University of Akron, we do a couple different things at the varsity level. First, as I mentioned, we do offer scholarship opportunities for every single player that is on our team. Currently, we have 53 players that are on our 7 different varsity teams. And then we also have a student coach and a student manager who also earn varsity scholarships here at the university. So each game has a manager and a coach that is a student. We also have dedicated spaces for these players to utilize. We've got 2 different gaming cafes on campus where the varsity players use those for practices, for games. And we also have faculty support. So we've got 3 full-time staff like myself who work in esports at the university. We organize events, we help out the teams, we make sure that there's appropriate funding and that the events are running smoothly. We also do yearly tryouts for each of these games. So to make sure that our teams are competitive, we're trying to select the highest level players that we can for these different teams. We are currently the reigning national champions, the collegiate national champions in both Rocket League and Rainbow Six Siege. We're looking for a few different things from our players. First, we're looking for where are these players coming from? What kind of individual accomplishments or team accomplishments have they been able to achieve over the course of their career in those games? We also look at communication and communication skills for those players. It's very important for us for them to be able to communicate well in the games that they play. Grades and scores coming into college are also very important for us because it tells us that those students are going to be able to stay in college and do well throughout the course of their college career. We look for leadership qualities as well because we are looking for IGLs for a lot of these games as well as coaches and managers, and we're looking for dedication to self-improvement. So we look at seasons going back 2 to 3 years typically for a lot of these games to see the improvement of the different players that we select. Here's a photo of us playing live in our stadium. This is us playing Counter-Strike against a rival university here. So for players that are looking to get noticed, how do you get noticed, whether it's by Akron, whether it's by a different university? First and foremost, if you're looking to get noticed, you need to be playing the ranked format in whatever game you're choosing. Some of those formats may be the in-game format. Some of them may be outside of the game format. It's always important to keep VODs of tournaments, events, games with your application. Make sure that you're uploading those when you're applying to the different esports programs. Apply early, check back often. It doesn't hurt to contact the program, ask what's going on with the applications, ask what's going on with the tryouts. That way you're involved. Most programs are going to have yearly tryouts as well. That link on the bottom here, uakron.edu/esports/varsity, is a link to our tryout application. Other schools that are doing tryouts have other links to those varsity applications as well. And then our website is uakron.edu/esports. And if you've got questions about the program, feel free to contact me at any time. My email is on the website and it's linked there. Mari's recording the video, so you guys should have a record of this as well. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat, or we've got a Q&A session here towards the end. Thank you.
All right, and I think I'm up next. I'm Jennifer Dixon. I'm gonna work on getting my screen going ahead so I can talk a little bit about applying to the US. So now that Nate's got us all inspired to come to the US and play some esports, you probably want to know what you should expect when it comes to applying and being admitted to a university in the United States. So the first thing, kind of to preface, I'm going to say it's very important to do your research. So in the US, there are thousands of universities and all of us are very distinct and unique. So each school might have a very different application process than another school. And so you really want to make sure that you know what things you're going to need so that you can prepare in advance, and also so that you don't do any work that you don't need to do. So utilize your resources. I'm the Assistant Director of International Recruitment at the University of Akron. And it's people like me, admissions counselors at the university reps, who you can always reach out to ask questions, to learn more about the university, to figure out exactly what you're going to need to apply. Also, like Mari, who spoke in the beginning, she's an Education USA advisor. Your Education USA advisors are invaluable resources who have so much knowledge about many universities in the US and are really there to help you to find the university that's going to be perfect for you. And then also you may have a college counselor at your high school. Talk to them as well. They often meet with people like me. They typically have some knowledge about different universities around the world, so it's important to also reach out to them and see what kind of information they can give you. So we often in higher education in the US talk about finding your best fit. And what that means is the university where you are most likely to thrive, where you're going to have the best experience and the best outcome. So things to consider are the programs, the academic programs. Do they have what you want to study? What type of students are there? Is it going to be the kind of people that you fit in with, that you want to be friends with? What extracurricular activities are offered? Even things like the location and the size of the school can be very important. So I really encourage students to do some research, find some universities that really feel like the perfect fit for them before kind of taking the next step, because you're going to need to know what universities you're interested in to figure out exactly what you need to apply. So this is kind of a general overview of the application process. I'm going to try to cover things that most universities are going to look for, but I'll probably keep reiterating the fact that every university is going to be different. So it's important to figure out exactly what the university you're interested in is looking for. So you're going to start out by going online and completing the online application, the college application. Part of that is going to be, sometimes that's going to be on the common application or the coalition application. Those are kind of shared applications where you can create a profile and then just choose the universities you want to apply to and just submit some supplemental information. Otherwise, universities sometimes have their own hosted application. Typically, you can go to the university's website and see if they're on the Common App or if they just have their own application. And for most schools, they're going to be weighted exactly the same. So it just really comes to your preference. Like if you already have a Common Application profile, then you can use that to apply. If you don't have that yet and it's easier for you to just fill out the application for the university, you can go ahead and do that. And the University of Akron is on the Common Application, and we have our own hosted application. The next thing you're going to want to get is your official transcript sent directly from your school. So we need your grades to determine if you're eligible to get into our university. So if your school is not in English or your transcripts are not in English, you will need a translation. So make sure you do have an English version of your transcripts. But those are going to be all of your grades from the past 3 or 4 years, however long your high school is. And possibly sometimes also national exams or other things like that. So those are going to depend often on what country you're in, as well as the university that you're applying to. Next, you're going to need proof of English proficiency. Since you're coming to the US, all of your courses are going to be in English, and we want to make sure that you know English well enough to be successful. So I think the most popular exams for English proficiency would be the TOEFL or the IELTS. Both of those are widely accepted, and many universities are starting to kind of branch out. The Duolingo English test has become very popular recently. It's one that you can take online at home from your computer using just the camera and microphone on your computer. And I've seen, especially now recently with the coronavirus, making it so many students can't leave their home to take a TOEFL or IELTS test. The Duolingo English test has become a lot more popular. So at the University of Akron, we take the TOEFL, the IELTS, the Duolingo, some others like the Cambridge, and we also offer some waivers for students from certain countries or certain academic programs like IB or AP. So again, it's something that you're going to kind of want to look into. We all have different scores that we're going to look for as well. So you know, for the TOEFL at the University of Akron, we look for a 71, the IELTS a 6.0, the Duolingo English test a 95, but that's going to vary between each university. Next up is going to be the SAT or ACT. If you're not familiar with the SAT or ACT, I typically think of these as kind of the United States answer to a national exam. We don't have any kind of national exam that students take to determine university preparedness. So these two exams kind of popped up, the SAT and ACT, which are aptitude tests to determine if you're ready for college. And again, this is one where universities really tend to vary. A lot of universities have started to go toward a kind of test optional or test flexible kind of system, meaning that the SAT or ACT are not going to be required. At the University of Akron, we're test optional for our international students. So international students don't need to have an SAT or ACT to be admitted, but we do use it to determine our scholarships. So we still encourage students to take it. You can also use sometimes your SAT or ACT scores to prove English proficiency as well. And I do have some links at the end if you're not familiar with the SAT or ACT, where you can visit their websites to learn a little bit more. They are offered all around the world, and many universities in the US use them in a variety of different ways. But again, you're going to want to kind of look into see, if all of the schools that you're looking into don't require the SAT or ACT, it might not be worth your time to take it. And finally, there are letters of recommendation, essays, other supplemental material for the application. And these come in when we're doing a very holistic review. Often we're looking for very well-rounded students. We want students who we know are a good academic fit, but also that are leaders or that have a lot of volunteer or community service experiences. So that's where you have the opportunity through your letters of recommendation, essays, possibly your resume or lists of your leadership experience to kind of let universities know who you are, to show your personality a little bit more. Because, we want to know who you are when we're looking at your application to kind of do our research to make sure you're the best fit. So much like you do your research to see if you feel like you would fit in at a university, we also want to know what kind of student you are so we can determine if you are going to find your best success at our university as well. So again, that's something that you're going to need to look at the university. The University of Akron right now doesn't require a lot of letters of recommendation or essays, but you can always submit those things if you have them just as supplemental materials. Tuition and scholarships, so I'll go over this briefly. So in the United States, there are public and private schools, and all of them charge tuition fees. And of course, they vary with the cost, but what a lot of students receive to offset the cost of higher education are going to be scholarships awarded by the institution. So there are academic merit scholarships. Those are going to be based on things like the grades from your transcripts, possibly also your SAT or ACT scores, sometimes even your TOEFL score or something like that will play into it. Need-based scholarships are going to look at how much you can afford and sometimes determine a scholarship based on how much additional funding you would need to be able to afford to come to that university. And then sports, traditional sports and esports scholarships, like Nate mentioned, a lot of schools now are offering esports scholarships and also traditional sports scholarships. Both of those are going to be based on your skill level as an athlete, and those are usually determined by the coach. So it's going to be Nate who determines esports scholarships, not someone like me from the admissions department, and the same with our traditional sports. And then also for the Norwegian students that are following, you can use your Norwegian government funding. So if you study abroad as a Norwegian student, you can get some funding from your government, and you can use that to pay for part of your tuition, sometimes even your housing and your travel expenses as well when you come to the US. So that's a really fantastic resource for students from Norway. And there are a couple other countries, obviously, that offer some government funding that can be brought abroad as well. So I'll give you an example. This is the Akron's scholarship package. This is our admissions scholarship. So this is kind of the combination for our international students or out-of-state students. The Akron Guarantee and the Akron Advantage Award are combined. So the Akron guarantee is anywhere from $1,000 to $7,500 in the first year, and it increases each year. So you can see those increase amounts, the 500 and then the 750 and then the 1,000 after your, when you go into your fourth year. When you add the $3,000, it's a tuition surcharge waiver since we're a public school. Out-of-state students pay a little bit more than in-state students who have been paying taxes to the state of Ohio. And so some out-of-state students, if you're eligible for scholarship, can have that waived. So you can get up to $10,500 in academic scholarship in your first year. That's going to increase each year. And that $10,500 is actually 65% of our tuition cost. So it can cover a substantial amount. And this scholarship is going to be based on your grades and an SAT or ACT score. So that's what we use to determine this scholarship. The nice thing about this, if you are awarded an esports scholarship or a traditional sports scholarship or additional funding, possibly from your department or from an outside source, that can be combined with these scholarships. So I'll talk just briefly about the University of Akron. We are a STEM-focused public research university, which means that we have a lot of STEM majors, really strong STEM majors, but we do have over 200 undergraduate programs. And so even you're going to find within our other programs that aren't necessarily science or technology or engineering, a kind of STEM focus. So it branches out even into our arts or humanities courses. So some of our notable STEM programs would be corrosion engineering, which we have the first and only corrosion engineering bachelor's program in the US. And if you haven't heard of it, it's kind of like engineers who are focused on preventing and fixing things from falling apart. That's kind of my very basic knowledge of it. Polymer science and engineering as well. We have a very strong computer science and computer engineering program. And biomimicry, that's actually the picture there with the robotic snake is one of our biomimicry fellows who they look at nature and at animals and determine how animal characteristics can be applied to help human innovation. So it's very interesting, very applicable. And we've had some of the first PhD students come out of the University of Akron for that. And also within our engineering, all of our programs are co-op programs, which means that they're a 5-year program instead of a 4-year program, but within that 5 years, you have 1 full year of full-time paid work experience. And this is something that we can even offer to international students. So it really gives you a leg up. You know, you're very competitive when you graduate, and when you go out into the world to look for a job, you already have a lot of work experience. So it's one of the things that we make us really proud of our STEM programs, is that co-op. And then this is actually pulled from the Esports website. When you come to the University of Akron, if you're not an esports player, but you're very interested in the kind of world of esports, our engineering, computer science, communications, health professions students, and even, you know, marketing and other fields in business are part of our kind of esports community on campus. So they broadcast games, they help market games, design materials, even building kind of the computers in the esports arenas. So it's important to remember that esports is more than sometimes just playing the computer game on your own or with the team. It's a huge industry with a lot of jobs. So if you're interested, and I think sometimes even our players can kind of double up and do some of these things as well. And we offer all of these different majors that students can come in and pursue, and then also work and volunteer with our esports teams to have those great opportunities. And so that's kind of all of my information for you. Here are some links that I just threw in there: the common application that I mentioned and the coalition application, if you wanted to make profiles there, if you have schools that are on those applications that you're interested in. And then that third link is the one for the SAT, and the fourth one is for the ACT if you wanted to do some more research to learn more about those programs. And I can go ahead.
Excellent, Jennifer. Thank you so much for sharing. That's really, it's really helpful to put it all in context. And Nate, what a great presentation. I'm super excited about esports, and I really hope that a lot of people had the opportunity to learn something new, and maybe that they're more prepared now to possibly combine college and esports. While we're still waiting for more questions, if you guys have any, feel free to reach out. Jennifer, there is a question for you. You can go into the answer one. It's about what are the deadlines for international students to apply for esports scholarships, and if you're too late to apply as a senior at the moment. And while we're answering that question, feel free to send any other questions you might have.
So the application deadline for international students is May 1st. So you do still have a full month to get that application in. And considering how the coronavirus has been, if there are some parts, I know some schools are closed and it's difficult to get transcripts right now. So we have been flexible with students as well, especially seniors who are kind of making their applications right now to kind of, be flexible in getting all of that through. But you do still have at least the month to get all of that information to us, so plenty of time.
Excellent, thank you so much. And Nate, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, are there any international esports players at your university or other universities you might know of?
There are. So currently we have one Korean student that's on the team. And we've had students from other countries in the last 2 years that have either graduated or have been here part-time or full-time and moved on to something else. But there are plenty of universities around the country that have international students as part of their team. There's no restriction on that in the collegiate realm currently.
Excellent. I think that is something everybody's wondering about, if they're eligible or what are the opportunities that they have. Could you also maybe talk a little bit about how did University of Akron start doing this, and why do you find it so important to support the players and make sure that the community of gamers is so well sought after?
Sure. So the primary reason that the university started it, and most of the reason why any of the larger schools across the country are doing it, is simply because there are so many students that are on every college campus that are interested in gaming and esports. So right now we're seeing, usually at most college campuses, about 15 to 25%, depending on the demographic, be interested in these types of programs. So for us, initially, it was a student retention and recruitment piece. It's a way to engage students that typically haven't been engaged with other student services on campus. So as I mentioned in the presentation, we're seeing right about 15% of the population at Akron use the esports and gaming arm of the university in one way or another. Some universities, smaller universities, have typically gotten into the space as a recruitment tool, where they're able to field 5 to 7 different teams. So you're attracting 30 to 40 students to that university. It's a good opportunity for the students to compete at the collegiate level. It's a good opportunity for the university to have access to higher caliber students as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I believe you have now 2 questions that you and Jennifer might be able to answer.
I think I can help answer this one from Harris, asking if they're interested in computer science, can they also participate in esports? And yes, absolutely. So if you are on the esports team, or even if you're playing esports on the club level or the recreational level, you are also, as a student, going to need to choose a major to pursue. So all of the students on our esports team, our varsity teams, or anyone that participates in esports also has a major that they come in, that they get their degree in. So you're kind of required to have that major. So you can definitely come in and pursue computer science as a student and also partake in our varsity esports team.
To piggyback off of that one a little bit, we've got students that are in the program from every major that Akron currently offers. So we've got engineering students in the program, we've got art students that are in the program, and then everything in between. So there's no real restriction as to what you can and can't major in. As for the second one, how do the tryouts work? The tryouts function yearly, typically in March or in April. We try and do a mixture of in-person and online tryouts for students. So if you're a student that's already attending the university, typically you'll attend the in-person tryouts, or if you're close enough, And if you're not, then we'll try and do online tryouts as well. We just finished up some online tryouts this year. We will look at the players that have applied for each of the games, and that's where we take prior experience, accomplishments into account when we're inviting players for those tryouts. And then at the tryouts, it's the tournament, how it goes, the different gameplay that we record, your performance at those tryouts that we take a look at when selecting the teams.
And then our next,
I can answer the next
great.
one too. So currently we have 3 different programs that the university is developing. None of them are fully functioning right now, but we are working to develop programs in sports science currently, as well as our School of Business and our School of Communications that focuses around esports and adding into the careers in that field. So typically within the next year or 2, we should see those programs being fully fleshed out as either degree programs or as certificate programs or a mixture of that. I can answer the next one as well.
Next one, yeah.
Yeah. So with the scholarship, the esports scholarships are offered depending on how the tryouts go. So this is assuming you can be accepted to the university, or you're not accepted yet, and then you're predicating being accepted on receiving a scholarship. That's fine. We can work with students who are accepted, who are not accepted, if they're attending the tryouts, and then we extend an offer to them and say, I will give you a deadline. And my deadline is usually whatever Jennifer's deadline would be, which is May 1st. And I would say, you have to be accepted by May 1st in order to receive the scholarship from the university. And if you're not accepted by May 1st, I can't offer the scholarship. So we would offer it. Then the students would finish their application to the university, and then in the fall, they would receive that scholarship.
And I also included kind of in the text there a link to the University of Akron's Esports website. If you wanted to click on that, that's where you can get some more information. But yeah, the scholarship is typically kind of attached to your placement on the team.
I can answer the next one as well. So the university took a pretty progressive approach to this because of the ability to connect with different students. This was 3.5 years ago now, mid 2017. The university came out to the student population and said, how many of you would be interested if we built an esports program on campus? Akron's got about 20,000 students, give or take, and 800 of them came back and said, yes, we'd love to participate. And then when they put another survey out, we had 1,600 that came back. And anytime that you get that number of students that are responding to something, to saying that they'd want to be interested, that they'd like to participate, the university, of course, is going to go forward with that initiative. So for us, it's really just about engaging the most amount of students that we can. Sure, there's the varsity aspect of it, and we do compete against other schools, but there's also the community aspect of it, where we've got 2,500 students that are building friendships and connections on campus that they wouldn't have been able to do without the program.
Excellent. I really think that a lot of people got a lot out of this webinar, and I'm happy to see that there were so many questions. So we're going to give it a minute or 2 more so people can think of other questions, but if not, feel free to reach out to me. If you found us on Facebook, feel free to send a Facebook message. I'll send you any link you might need. If you found us on the EducationUSA.NO website, there's email and opportunity for people to send a questions there too, so feel free to do that. Or Nate's already sent us, he publicized his email, so that should be possible too. So there was a final question, seems like. Oh, 2 more, very good.
The tryouts typically will take an entire afternoon. Depending on the game, we also do callbacks for certain games as well. We would start usually about this time, maybe an hour or 2 later, and then we would go for 6 hours or so, and then we would look to call back 2 or 3 students at a later date. The application during the tryouts, you would be trying out with up to 20, 30 other students that are also applying for the team. Each semester, we receive about 600 to 700 applications for the teams overall.
And Nate, if they're interested in trying out, should they go to the website and fill out that there's a form on the esports website, right, where they can give their information, some of their stats? Is that the best place for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, that's correct. So the form that's linked, that you actually linked to the question there, if they fill out that form, they'll get an automated response from the program, and then we'll get back to them about when the tryouts would be. For this year, we've concluded the tryouts for most of the games, but there may be an opportunity if you're planning to attend the university to join the team in the fall as well. So just because you didn't attend the tryouts doesn't mean that you're barred from joining the program. We can always make adjustments mid-semester, but we look to do the tryouts early. So like in a situation where you're deciding, where do I want to go, where do I want to attend, where do I want to apply, we can get back to students before the admissions deadline of May 1st, where right now that would be difficult because the tryouts would have already concluded.
Yeah, so if you're interested, definitely go on and fill out that that form on the website that I linked. I think it's uakron.edu/esports.
I'll grab it again because the second one is the same one.
Probably take you there. And then, we can then we'll follow up with you about possible tryouts or other ways that you could get on the team if the tryouts are already over.
So I also just linked the other one to that question that was just asked. International students can certainly apply for the tryouts. There's no restrictions there. The only difficulty would just be the timing of everything. But I think for most people in Norway, it would work fairly well. It'd be a little bit later in the evening. We would typically start maybe 6 o'clock your time. We'd go a little bit late. But other than that, yeah, you'd be fine to apply.
Very good. Yeah, no, I think the timing is for across Europe is pretty easy. It should be just plus or minus 1 hour from now to either side of Europe. Norway's in the middle. Very nice. All right. Well, I think that concludes our webinar for today. Like I said, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I'll happily share Nate's email again. And then I really hope that University of Akron can get some European applicants now, and especially within the esports. So thank you all for joining today, and then I'll see you guys later.
Thank you.